Okay, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I guess for the folks online, you can't see, but there's a bunch of folks in the room for our regular, monthly meetup, the Boston Cloud and AI community. Although many of you know, we took a break this summer. So one of the things, just to bring people back, we ended the the spring season, if you will. Really, it was the beginning of the summer with our big in-person event. So once a year, we do a big in-person event. And then that was our last event of the summer. Then we took a break. We took a break for a couple of months. And so first, I just want to welcome everybody back, the folks online and the people in the room. And we're super excited for the fall. There's just a ton of stuff going on that I'll talk about during the introduction. And then we also just have an amazing speaker that I'm really excited to introduce tonight as well. So first, a little bit about the group. We meet the last Wednesday of every month. The meetings are held here in person at the Burlington Microsoft location. And again, we do annual events as well that we hold in the larger room. And so we always want to just take a moment to thank Microsoft for sponsoring us with the space for not only this, but for our yearly events. And then also thank our company, Real Activity, has been one of the driving sponsors behind this group for the past couple of years. And so what does that mean? What is this group? And so essentially this came about during we were just talking about the pandemic actually and how that affected speaking. And so long story short, I was at a point in my career where I was literally on the road all the time speaking at that point. It seemed like it was consuming my career. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, that just immediately stopped. And so I went from, doing all this nonstop international travel, speaking to people about technology to, we all went through it, to silence, right? And so long story short, we decided to spin up this group. I thought to myself, I was like, well, why not take advantage of it and actually focus locally? Right, like so again, I'd spent the years before that speaking globally, and so that's how the group was formed, if you will. That was the spirit and the idea of it. And so of course we started remotely at first. We had to do remote presentations, and then we came back. we came back as soon as it was safe to came back, and which was probably a little bit too early because a lot of people, people had different timelines. And so the first year was a little rough. There was like sometimes there'd be one person, two people, three people, and then socially distant, yeah. And then long story short, now here we are, we're coming into our third year, and we've really just picked up some really great traction. We have on average 10 to 20 people at the meetings, which we're really happy with. Frankly, our intention was never to fill a room with a bunch of people as much as it was to just fill a room with some smart people where we could get together and talk about healthcare technology, etc. And so one of the things I personally have been impressed with is from my experience with user groups is the quality of the folks that attend our meetings. And I think it's because of the niche. Like I candidly, I don't think we're doing anything special other than, we are trying to focus on a specific niche, and maybe that's helping a little bit. But for whatever reason, we're making great progress. So our goals this year, we have an advisory committee, and we just continue to try to narrow down and focus our niche. And so one of the things that we're looking at right now is actually working with students and just helping them try to figure out what AI means even to their career, right, in healthcare and in health tech. Everybody's trying to figure that out. And so these are just some of the ways that we give back. But most of it, though, to be clear, is we do tend to focus mostly on students. So we spend a lot of time at Code and Coffee, too, down in Cambridge, and support the coding groups down and the universities down there as well. We always invite new speakers, student speakers, to our events to get new speakers involved, et cetera. So that's our mission and who we are. And here's a QR code I'll just put up here, and this will bring you to our link tree. So we do have a link tree. If you search for Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI Community, then you'll find our link tree. So this month, the end of the summer, it's the end of August now. And so technically this special announcement is for next month, but this is one of the things I was very excited to talk about this week. And so how many have you have heard about Boston AI Week 2025? Yeah. Okay, good. So, so for the folks that haven't heard of it in the room, I highly suggest looking up the event, the website, etc. So this is a week-long series of events that will take place the last week of September. And so Microsoft is one of the big sponsors of this. They'll be actually doing events at the Cambridge office. I don't know if there's any in the Burlington office, but I know they're doing one in the Cambridge office. It will run the entire week. It's sort of centered around the MIT conference. So the MIT AI conference is that same week. And then what they've done is they put together about 1,000 other events around it. And I've heard there'll be up to 10,000 attendees. I'm assuming they're accounting the MIT attendees as well. And so I'm just super excited about this because for multiple reasons. It's one, we've just been working as a lot of people in this room and other folks, we've just been working really hard this summer. It seemed like it was one of those summers where it was hard to take a break because of the technology just kept moving and the business was moving, et cetera. And so we knew that. And so we set up our summer so that we could hit the ground running September 1st with like AI week, et cetera. And now it's here. And so we're excited for it. One of the big things another second big announcement for us is we'll actually have a special speaker that week too. So technically our next meeting, again, it's the last Wednesday of the month. So it will be the last Wednesday of next month. So that means we'll miss AI week by two days, but we'll be supporting it. By the way, we'll be sending you a from our newsletter list, like the events that we're going to. And we may even do like share a pint type thing. Like we'll keep folks in here notified. But anyway, we've got an engineer from Meta that is going to speak to us. So this person works on AI models for Meta. I forget exactly what. Forgive me for not remembering the exact details, but we're super excited to have them talk about what could be done with, with Meta and in healthcare systems and HIPAA, et cetera. Remember, Llama is part of, all these models are in Azure Foundry, right? It's a very open world right now. So we're actually very honored to have this person from Meta essentially show us how we could use their models on Azure in these healthcare scenarios. So that'll be our next meeting. Yes.
Can you do presentation mode so we can see the slide? Or does that screw everything up for everybody online?
That's a great question. I apologize.
Right there. Further up.
Where do you see it? Sorry.
Right underneath your image.
Oh, yeah.
Not that.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you so much. It didn't even occur to me. I appreciate that. Now we can all see better. Okay, great. So yeah, now I can see better too. Actually, I was struggling as well. So data quality lead at Meta. I couldn't read that from where I was before. So we're obviously we're super excited to have Rahul come speak for us. And then the last thing I'd like to just call out, and again, we'll share these slides with everybody. These are just some of the upcoming events, including events that are happening during AI week. So like here's ours, which is the 24th. So that's not technically AI week. The AI week will start here on the 26th. And then we've tried to pick out a couple of events that would be the most applicable for folks that are interested in healthcare and Microsoft AI. So here's the Microsoft event. You can see the big Microsoft event will actually be on the 1st of October. And so that's it. Yeah. So Boston AI Week, again, we're very excited for it this week, this year for multiple reasons. Again, it's just wonderful timing. The fall, the buzz like in Cambridge right now. I just went to an event there this summer, an AI event, and I reckon I see people in the room. Others have been into these events, and I'm sure that they will attest and can agree that the hallways are abuzz. People are really excited again. And so I think that the combination of the excitement in Boston, the amazing job that these organizers are doing in pulling all of this together, combined with this just being the perfect moment when people need this content, is just going to make it an amazing week. So thank you. Okay, I'll stop being so formal. I had to do a very formal 20-second clip for later.
There was another QR. There's another QR code that you had up for a moment, but I missed it.
Yeah.
Not the little one next to the speaker's name, but it was after the schedule, I think.
Oh, it was after the schedule. Oh, yeah. That was yeah. There you go. Yep. There you go. Whoops, sorry.
A little bit click happy over there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. So after all that is said and done, though, now for the best part of the meeting, I was super excited that Melissa agreed to come down here and speak. And primarily what excited me the most is because we've already had several conversations in the past few months. So we met, I think we may have connected on LinkedIn first, and we had a quick conversation and decided we should look at collaborating together. But then we found out we were both speaking at the same Microsoft event in New York City, like that same month. So I was like, well, this is great. Let's just skip the phone call and we'll meet in New York. And it was great. And we got to spend a day talking about specifically what we're excited about. One of the things we're excited about, and Melissa's very excited about, is this idea of governance and adoption. And so, when we look at working in some of these larger hospitals and hospital systems, this idea of governance and adoption is a very broad topic that needs in some cases you need teams of people, actually tackling the thing. And so we ended up just having some amazing conversations. We talked a lot in New York. And so I was just impressed even more. And so, long story short, we decided that we're started to collaborate on something we're very excited about. Now it's this notion of bringing just real basics for AI leadership, at these hospitals and hospital organizations, like real basic AI safety stuff, like even like, what is it? Like, we're finding that this is sort of where some of the people are. So anyway, with all that, I don't think I can say anything more nicer or after that. But that's why I was so I'm sure you won't. You're amazing. But now I'll let you officially introduce yourself and your role. Here you go.
Admit me in.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Okay, and then can you also admit my screen?
Yep. There you go.
Okay. So I'm seeing double on here.
Yeah, I'll figure that out as you're speaking.
All right, so I should unmute now, yeah?
All right, perfect. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everybody. So thank you for that amazing introduction, Paul. I'm really excited to be here. I actually live in New Hampshire, so I had a little bit of a drive coming here and a little bit of traffic, not too bad. So excited to be here. Really, honestly, so a couple things I'll just share about me. I'm not going to show you code today. I don't know if that's disappointing. If you want to run for the hallway, I won't be offended. So I'm not going to show you code or walk through things like that and do demos. I really want to talk to you about a different type of topic. So my whole background is in product and tech. So I'm an engineer by trade I will date myself, for over 25 years. I've worked across several different industries, and the work I'm doing now in consulting is industry agnostic. And as Paula mentioned, I'm really excited to partner with him and start to make a lot of hopefully impact in the healthcare technology space as well. I've worked a lot in hospitality, maybe not that far of a descent from healthcare, but in a different way. And also in nonprofits and several other industries like higher education. But my entire focus was first building technology, then in the product space, product managing, building teams of product managers, product strategy, working with clients to understand what their business roadmap was and how technology aligned with that. So that's really where my whole passion is around that. And so in consulting, what we do at Benson Consulting is really focused around how can we make sure that you're getting and maximizing the most return on all this amazing investment that you're doing in technology, right? And so that's why adoption is something that's very near and dear to my heart, because speaking candidly, working within the vendor space, for anybody that works within the vendor space, like at Microsoft, for example, sometimes it's hard for us to help the consumers of our technology the way that we really want to. And I think that's why consultants are really important, honestly, because they're able to be agnostic and they're able to be unbiased and they're able to support people and meet them where they are. I think as a vendor, we're sort of guarded in a lot of ways. Our first and utmost priority is our product, bringing our product to market, making our product successful, selling our product, making sure there's adoption, but not necessarily that it's 100% aligned. Maybe on the customer success side, yes, but not like 100% aligned with the individuals and how they're really receiving the product. So that's why I'm super passionate about adoption and being here with you guys today. So that's a little bit about me. Let me make sure that, okay, perfect. So what I want to ask first, if I can figure out how to advance my slides, is kind of like, that's why I'm here, right? But I want to know, why are you here? So yeah. So if you guys can do the Slido, I think online you should be able to do it as well. Why are you here? What brings you here? Whether it's something just general, like, hey, I just want, but like pick one of these topics, because I like to know you as much as introducing myself. And then it will just show up here live as you guys answer the question. And I promise not to quiz you like constantly. I do have another Slido slide. I'm not going to lie. I like interaction. So I want to say, like, if there are questions, please feel free to interact, ask questions. Perfect. And I won't be offended if you interrupt me. I'm also a really fast talker. So you don't? What is your category? Tell me.
But I would say I'm here to expand my horizon, which
kind of the first one, the level up one,
Yeah,
maybe fits
yeah.
the best out of the three.
it's the one that comes closest, right? But then
Multiple choice, the one that comes closest.
Yes, yeah,
that's
exactly.
why I don't like multiple choice.
All right, so I just learned something about it. My next Slido is not multiple choice.
Or you ate another category called other.
Other.
With open text.
All right, so that's great. So it looks like we're kind of divided between roughly like here to level up, learn, right? And expand your horizons. And then also just to really understand what are some practical strategies to drive adoption within your organization or for yourself, right? Like, I think it's important. So that's great. Thank you for playing along. So what I like to call the iceberg of adoption. So Section AI, is anyone familiar with Section AI? Have you ever heard of them? If you haven't, I recommend looking them up. So it's an educational AI platform. For individuals, it's free. For corporations, they're trying to sell to it. They're trying to promote AI education. Why I think it's interesting is because they did a survey, or they did a research study, and they found some really interesting metrics that I think are important for us to talk about today and really understand. And hopefully you'll see how the thread continues to follow as I talk. But some of the things that I thought were really interesting, and we'll get into this in a minute, was around proficiency. So again, this is specific to AI, right? But you could apply this to any technology. I want to say that also up front, like anything I say to you today is not really specific to AI. It just so happens that that's all the rage right now. And that's where everybody's really focused on investing, right? And adopting. So, but it really applies to any technology, product or solution or strategy, right? So you could really like insert anything there. So only 10% of the workforce is considered truly proficient. And we'll expand more about what we all think proficiency is, because it's a very personal thing, I'll tell you. It's not something that I can write in a book and be like, oh, check the box, you're proficient. But this is, again, self-reported and then analyzed, only 10% considered truly proficient. Many people overestimate their skills. This didn't surprise me at all.
Like driving.
So people think they're very, very good and much better than they actually are, right? In fact, 54% of them that were actually, when tested, were a novice level, consider themselves as intermediate or better. And this is troubling, right? For a lot of reasons when we're talking about adoption, because it means people think they know more than they know. And that's dangerous for a lot of things, like especially with AI, right? If they think they know more, then they know better, and they're going to do things that could be potentially be damaging and not according to a policy or safe for you. Some barriers, again, not really surprising, although I did learn a little bit when I looked at this study. So only 23% that were analyzed in this study had universal access. So what does that mean? Like not everybody had access to the tools and the ability. I called BS on that a little bit because I was like, everyone can type chat GPT in their browser. So like you really do have access, but I think they're thinking in the constraints of the organization, right? So like, did your organization provide you access to a paid license for a tool, right? And why? Because that was really reserved for managerial access in the study they did, right? And so, and that's a disservice, and we'll get into why today, hopefully that is. And then on top of that, so not only was it not universally accessible, on top of that, only 39%, not only, 39% unfortunately discouraged or ignored supporting people having access or learning. So it was almost like because they were afraid of it, and they're the ones that had access, by the way, they didn't understand it. So therefore they certainly didn't want the people, their subordinates, learning more than them and like having access to something that they couldn't quite get their head wrapped around. And then fear is always a big one, right? Fear, not only of not knowing, but fear, and I'm sure you've all heard or experienced or talked to someone that think, well, if I use that, it's just like cheating. And I have a funny story. I talked to someone that's in a management role recently, and he said, I mean, I know my team's using AI to deliver some of their work, and I applaud it, like they should be. And he said, the challenge I have is when they use it and don't like use their brain. So, and the example he gave me was he had asked someone to do a bunch of research. This particular woman did a bunch of research in the product space, came back to him, reported all of her research. And when he questioned her, she could not answer any specific questions about any of the research she had done. So it was he's like very clear that it literally.
Not even which prompts she used?
No. So the research was spit out, right? And she presented it as her own without being able to, which again, like, listen, we're all using it every day, right? But the challenge is like, don't present something that you can't defend, like that you don't have knowledge and credibility around. So I think that's the cautionary tale. So people think that they're worried they're going to be seen cheating, and well, some people are, like, right? But I think it's not cheating to use it, but also like trust but verify, right? Like you need to be able to validate that information. So yeah, of course.
Just curious.
Yeah.
What were some of the testing that you did to figure out if people landed more so on the novice level? Or?
So this was not my report. This comes from the Section AI's proficiency report. So they did a bunch of, I think, surveys and probably follow-up analytics and things like that to figure this out. But these came from their results specifically. There's a whole report. This is sort of like extracted from that report, a whole summary. I think it's like 20 pages, but you can, we'll send this out after, and then you can download that report. And also just go to Section AI and you'll see it, because they did this in June, and they published it. So it's really interesting. Again, like it was the first one that I've seen where people actually were even talking about proficiency, because that's where my head's at. You'll see a lot today. That's where I'm very focused, because I feel like that's the needle that we need to move to really understand if people are adopting technology, is like, well, how do we measure proficiency? What does it mean? Yeah.
Isn't that everywhere? Dunning-Kruger effect is a known thing. Everybody assumes they know more than.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's not unique to AI. That's what I was saying before. Like this isn't, and I mean, it's obviously, you mentioned driving. Some people claim they're a much better driver than they are, right? So that's just human nature, right? It's just human nature. But I think it's important to note here, because when we ask people or when we survey people, it's a balance of, if they say they on a scale of 1 to 5 and they say they're a 5, but then like some of the actual sentiment that you see and some of the other questions you ask don't really align with that, you're like, no. Or you give them actual tests, where you're testing their ability and they're not able to meet those expectations. They may say they're here, but they're really not, or they don't understand it, right? So I think that's true of people right now.
Research versus competence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a combination of qualitative data and quantitative data, right? Like I think those two things have to work in conjunction. So there's, I call this the iceberg of adoption, because on the surface we see usage metrics. These are easy. We'll talk about more about this. Below is where we see things like confidence. Does it actually fit in my workflow? Do I trust it? Like all of those things. And those things are like below the surface. We don't see them. And not, most candidly, we don't really measure them a lot, right? I think this was the first report where I felt like they were actually digging in and measuring those things when it came to technology. So second question. I told you there would be another one. There won't be anyone after this. And it's not multiple choice for those that don't appreciate multiple choice. Just what comes to your mind? AI proficiency, again, you could say any tech, but like what is the word or a couple of words? I mean, I said one word, but I don't want to limit you. Just don't make it a paragraph. What comes to your mind for AI proficiency? Oh, I love that. That's a good one. Interesting. Okay. Caution. That comes to that fear thing, I think, right? It's already coming up in our words here. Usage. Yep. Okay, great. Okay. Nice. Practicality. I love orchestration. We'll get there in a second too. I love that someone said that. Efficiency. Yes.
Can I add more?
You can add as many as you
I'm
want.
kidding.
You can.
I'm watching it update on my phone. I'm like, oh,
Leverage.
that's really interactive.
What I love about these word clouds too is like as people add, when they're unique, right, it just starts to spread out. But when people add the same one, it like gets big. The word gets bigger, and that hasn't happened here. Which means, by the way, it's validating the fact that proficiency is a personal thing. We all have a very different definition of this. This isn't something that you can go off and be like, I know when you're proficient in anything, right? Like it's a very personal thing. So it also has context. It has situation, like, so it's proficiency is, it's a bit ambiguous. Oh, look.
No,
someone-
I was just testing.
Oh, I was gonna, she wanted to see if I was lying about it. She wanted to test my proficiency with Slido. So, awesome. But I do think ROI is a big one. Obviously that's part of the premise I talk. So thank you for playing along with that. This is great. So here, when I talked about surface metrics before, the things that we see, right? Imagine if you're leading a team and you've just rolled out some new technology. I actually have an interesting story about that too. But the only real data you have is like how many times people are logging in, right? And maybe if you have instrumentation otherwise, or that particular tool or solution has reports that you can run on usage, you have other data, but it's really like how someone's interacting with the tool. And so I call those surface metrics, right? Because what's it actually telling you? It's telling you someone's, quote, using it. But what's their experience? How efficient are they, right? How proficient are they? Do they understand it? Do they understand what was one of the other things we just saw in there? What it does and its limitations. Like all the, you don't get that from
domain they're working in.
yeah. Like what use cases are they using it for? Like you don't get any of that from surface metrics is what I'm referring to them as, right? It gives you quantitative information about how someone's interacting with a tool or a technology, but that's it. It doesn't give you anything below the surface around if they trust it. They could click on that button 15 times and they could tell everybody on their team, never click on that button. It sucks, right? You don't know. And I talk to product companies all the time because that was, part of my background. And I say, oh, you're implementing Pendo. That's amazing. What are you going to do with the data that you have? And they have no idea. They're just going to instrument the crap out of the whole thing and they're going to track everything. And now they're going to have a big pile of data that's going to tell them a whole lot of nothing. Right? Yeah. But what AI won't tell them is that great feature you just rolled out, and now you can tell your executive leadership team that feature just knocked it out of the park. Why? Because everybody clicked on it. Great. Did they like it, or did they, curse incessantly, slam their laptop and walk out the room? You don't know that.
I clicked 5 times
Yeah.
because it just wasn't working.
Yeah, you don't know that. So that's what I'm challenging this, and I'm saying metrics miss this. What we need to be looking for is signals. And where do signals come from? Us, people. This is like, we lost the art of this because we've gotten so good at tech. And I'm a technologist by heart. I love tech, but we've gotten a little bit so focused in there. We forgot about the people that are going to be ones using it, right? And again, I'm very passionate about this because I experienced a lot of it in my career, building a lot of tech and not paying attention to these things. So what we're proposing is there's signals that you should be watching for. And so how do you detect these signals? So there are lots of frameworks out there. Yeah.
Yeah, could I make a point?
Yeah.
In terms of like this kind of signal,
Mhm.
what you tell me, for example, you go back to the survey.
Yeah.
That you just poll, like you have all different writing there. And some of these writings might convey similar signal, but when you plot that out, it kind of go to a different place. So in that instant, what you actually need is actually to understand the writing there, what that reference to. So in some way, maybe like a technology also can help thinking about like a vector search, a big vector match, that kind. And
Yeah.
I just wondering for that kind of like a technology itself, does it go to that extent? Try to understand those
Yeah.
terms that people represent, what it does, or what
Yeah.
it actually means,
Yeah.
to actually give you a better sense about what people try to communicate.
This is a
And
technologist at heart right here. He's like,
Yeah,
wait,
okay.
you can ask people, but you still have to use technology.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to convey. It's
No,
not
of course.
necessarily that technology doesn't solve the problem. It's just you may not find the right angle to use the technology, or
Yeah.
not using the right way.
And listen, I'm not saying technology can't solve lots of problems, but we still have to talk to the people to understand how it's working for them and if it's working within their workflow. So 100%. In fact, I can even, share more about when I say like AIM Proficiency Pulse is something that we've actually built that we're leveraging with our clients to understand proficiency and the mechanism there. And I'm definitely using technology to do that, right? But I'm also combining it with the ability to run these pulses. And so there are several frameworks. We probably don't even have remotely enough time to get into all of them. And then they all like their measure AI literacy, for example. And by the way, those are surveys. Like that's what they're doing with that framework. What we've done is like a pulse that we run on a frequency with clients as they're adopting AI or any other technology, which is a combination of qualitative and quantitative information. And then we're able to build an index that we can understand and appreciate. And I'll show you examples of that too. But yes, of course, technology has a place everywhere to solve lots of problems, but we can't forget the people. And that's definitely the focus here. So somebody mentioned orchestration, and I love that because I like to talk about like the stages of how AI can integrate into your world or any technology again, but like specifically, like I think when everyone started at first, and there's still people that are at that stage, they just started like playing, one-offs, experimenting, research, creating content, whatever the thing was they're doing, that was over here on the left. And then as they get more comfortable and they progress in their maturity and their understanding, and maybe they know what it does or doesn't do and their limitations, they start to like build this process. And it's sort of like an orchestration, right? Where AI is in the center and they're able to do all these great things. And it becomes more embedded in their workflow. And then sort of the nirvana over here on the right, you can see like you don't even see anything that has to do with AI. It's just sort of like happening. It's like ingrained into everything. And so to me, this picture really what it intends is to differentiate between AI usage and AI fluency, right? And someone who used usage as a thing that they actually would describe proficiency, which I would challenge. But again, it's personal, so I wouldn't say you're wrong. I would just challenge that AI usage is really like activity. I think of it more even like closely to those surface metrics, whereas AI fluency is about confidence and consistency, right? So like over here on the right, people are confident and consistent because they're literally using it to optimize things that they're already doing. Like they see the potential. It's just an appendage. It's like connected to them versus it's this thing outside of them that they're using to orchestrate things versus, I don't know, every once in a while they go in there. So that's the whole intent of like, that's why I love that someone said orchestration, because it's literally what I'm talking about here in the middle. But I think there's different ways that we embed AI into how we work. And that, again, true of any technology. Like, how do we adopt it? We play with it, or we use it holistically and we orchestrate things around it, or it's just literally, I don't know what I would do without it, like this, right? Like it's like attached to you.
How do you see this advancing over the next like 3 to 5 years? Do you think there's going to be like 80, 95% all the way to the right?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. I think there will be things that will be more here on the right. but I think that this technology is changing faster than anything in my entire career, right? Like, and it's changing weekly. So I think because of that, two things, I think it will become such a smoother integration that this will get easier. Yeah, but then I also think there'll be such new things that emerge. There'll be this always happening. I don't think we're ever going to get to. This is what I predict. I guess don't quote me, but it's being recorded. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get to a place where everything's over here on the right, because I don't think the innovation is going to stop, right? And I think if we've not learned anything in the last 6 months, that it's moving really fast and it's going to keep
You know
going.
what's really crazy to think about is one day AI will become obsolete.
That's right. That's
I
right.
guarantee it. We just don't know when, right?
Yeah.
We just don't know, right? If you would have told me that about the internet 20 years ago, I would have laughed, right?
Yeah.
Or if you told me that about the cell phone.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to drop that because I was thinking
Yeah.
about that earlier
Yeah.
this week.
No,
I was
Paul,
like,
it's a
well,
great
I know
point.
it's not going to be here someday.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. And I
It
actually
might
have
take 50 years.
someone asked me many years ago, like four years ago. I mean, AI is not new, right? So it was around 4 years ago. But someone asked me about something we were building on the product side as a company. And they said, do you think the things that we're building now will be obsolete in 3 years? And I thought about it. I was like, well, that's a really interesting question. And then I thought about it and I said, no. And he was like, why? Why don't you think it will be obsolete in 3 years? And I'm not challenging totally, but I'm kind of challenging you. And I said, because of people. Because the only way it can become obsolete is if people stop using it. And you can't even just say that companies can just stop
Just go
supporting it,
cobalt.
because if there's a foothold in the market, ask Microsoft. How many things have they tried to retire that they can't, right? That they wish they could, they don't support them anymore, but doesn't mean people stop using them, right? And so I worked at a product company for 20 years. And in that time, we had a DOS product, if anyone even remembers what that is. And it went through all sorts of transitions to client server Windows to in the cloud, like cloud hosted. When I left that company, they had just finally converted the last DOS customer. I mean, we had created a product on Salesforce. Like what? We had a DOS customer. And so I said, I remember that story. I said, yeah, no, it won't be obsolete in 3 years. Nothing we build now. And even that could be true of this. It may look different, but if people are still using it, there's a power in adoption that can't be denied.
I was
Cobalt.
20 years.
That's true. That's true.
AI is not a first
Yeah.
So there will be an evolution of,
Yeah, of course.
something else,
Sure.
similar to all the things we know. I think it's,
I could agree with you more.
yeah, horse cards have obsolete.
Yeah.
Cars evolved from it.
Yeah.
EVs and maybe flying cars, but that is an evolution of the wheels and the steam engine.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I look at it.
Yeah,
It's
of
a
course.
capability.
Yeah. But horses aren't obsolete because people still ride them.
No, I mean,
Maybe if nobody rode them.
But they are
anymore.
obsolete as a primary mode of transportation.
True,
People use them
true.
for entertainment
Yeah.
or for hobby. It's
Yeah.
a completely different kind of usage model. As primary, as for cargo transport, personal, they're totally obsolete.
of
They are
course.
Uses
definitely-
newspapers.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like newspapers I used to deliver them.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, the web hit, right? But I don't want to detract from where you're going.
Yeah, no.
I'd love to have
We
this
could have a
conversation
whole
after.
group about
So can you go back?
obsolete.
Can you show your previous slide?
Yeah, of course.
So, to what? It's possible that I was thinking too much from a technology point of view, right? That when you were saying it felt sort of like that you felt like that it disappears. That sort of like that was your definition of proficiency.
No, but I'm going to get there.
Okay.
No, not the deficient. This is more about how it integrates into your daily life, not necessarily where you're proficient, right?
Okay.
Proficient, but that can definitely, like it being ingrained, like embedded into your daily workflows, can feel like you become proficient, right? Because you're using it, you don't even realize you're using it, but you're obviously very good at it.
So not to just make everything about cars,
Yeah.
but just to kind of metaphorically, it sounds like I can be proficient as a driver. I can use the technology very well, or maybe not so well, but that has nothing to do with how to design a car, even how to fix a car. I can drive well and not even be able to change my oil.
Of course,
Right?
yeah.
And I think that might be kind of relevant to like the differential between usage and
Building.
building
Mhm.
and maintenance and actually working with the underlying
Yeah.
technology itself as a mechanic or as an engineer of cars, or in this case of any technology, AI. in
Yeah,
particular.
that's
Yeah.
great. That's a very good differentiation. Yeah, thank you. And then when I'm talking about adoption, I'm talking in terms of like end user
End
adoption
user
of things.
perspective,
Yeah, which is relevant for a lot of people in lots of different contexts right now
Is this
about how they're
a
rolling AI solutions
one
out.
person view or is it a people view? Because if you take 100 people,
Mhm.
right now, majority on the left side, it will roll into right-hand side, but there will be still people on the
Spread.
left, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are like just creating such amazing segues for me. Okay, so how I talk about this and how we talk in the model that we created, we talk about proficiency and sort of the scale, like how you grow. We put them in different stages. So in AI, this is how we've mapped them. So we have a stage where you're aligned, and that's like say your base, your ground zero, where I understand where AI fits, and then as you progress. I use AI when prompted or shown. Like I'm not really like embedding it in my daily workflow, but I know how to use it. And if someone asks me to or shows me how, I will. Embedded, I reach for it every day. So like it's a habit. It's habitual. I don't know what I would do without it. And then evangelized, it takes it all the way up to the next level. Well, now I'm like helping other people discover how to use it. It's like Paul. Paul's evangelized, right? Like, so the different stages of proficiency and how we measure those. So you have to create sort of the landmarks to reach, right? And so that's what this represents, is how do we get to these different stages? What does it actually mean? And by the way, you can have these stages in any technology. In fact, I've done this with our clients for other technology adoption. And the definitions just shift a little bit. Like, what does it mean to be aligned if you're adopting this platform, for example, versus AI? So to answer your question around like, hey, people could be over here, and spread. We did this recently with a client in the family office and foundation space. So you can see that these are their teams over here on the left, and this is the percentage of employees. And so we ran our proficiency pulse where we analyzed the data, both sentiment and metrics that they've rated themselves on. And you'll see there's nobody, one thing to point out, there's nobody in evangelized. Nobody was there. And that was not a surprise to me. And then there are teams that are 100% in embedded. I was actually not surprised that their learning and evaluation team had embedded this tool in their everyday workflow. But then there are teams that are spread. So to your point, like special initiatives and racial wealth equity, were split literally about 50% half to half with aligned and engaged. Like, so they were all over the map. And so we showed this to the leadership team and we said, what this represents is that not everybody is at the same stage across your entire organization in adoption. So how can we help? Well, we and we'll get into this, but like we need to focus on this feedback and then figure out, okay, these are signals, right? So back to signals versus surface metrics. So these are signals. So now how do I use these signals? This isn't how many times people logged in, by the way. This is us talking to them and then using technology. We still use technology to evaluate the results of having these conversations and the data that we got to be able to plot them out and give them an idea of where everyone was on the adoption journey. Yeah.
You can ignore my question for time or whatever, but there are two groups that kind of pop to my mind. The second one, the sector effectiveness, and second from the bottom, arts and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
There is no middle in those two responses. Mm-hmm. There's just like people. So I'm wondering, it's like,
power
what's
users.
special about those groups that there's a fair amount in the beginning phase all the way on the left, but then they kind of shift quickly and jump all the way to the.
Well, these aren't the same people. So these are different people. So
but as a group, right?
Yeah.
There's
There's
nobody in the middle.
There's power users for sure on this team. And we knew that because we had talked to them. So I knew like on the climate team, there was power users. And so in arts and creativity, there are people that are just resistant to change. So they literally have barely adopted. And that's why you see someone aligned and there are other people that are using it every day. So it's the same team, but that doesn't mean individuals are working in the same way.
So it's more like a kind of a cultural, like a team culture that is impacting their kind of adoption and where the group is kind of showing up.
Yeah, it would be easy for everyone, right? If the whole arts and creativity team just said, I'm not going to use it. And then you're like, okay, we have a problem. But no, it was like some people on the team decided they weren't going to use it. Yeah.
I'm finding that depending on I think certain groups and certain departments have certain demographics that are more alike than others, and I found that kind of influences how well adapted they are.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
I think that I'm looking at the ones, especially that are the most extreme. Purples, blues, or yellows.
Yeah.
And I find myself nodding along not knowing anything about who's in the education group, but just seeing that. Actually noticed,
They're not very
typically
educated.
speaking, slow adopters.
Yeah.
As far as a set or demographic. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a really interesting use case for us to do this analysis and like look at it. And again, it was like we learned a lot, but at the same time, we weren't that surprised. Like I was not that surprised that learning and evaluation was 100% consistent, and they were all in the highest level for the organization, like that they were, because they're very eager to like move things forward,
We
right?
also have enablers within each of these teams
Mm-hmm.
inside who are perhaps like evangelists, and they
Of course.
evangelize to their own specific.
Yeah, versus like isolated power users. Yeah.
And one group, I also like a little bit surprised in terms of their adaptations, the IT business system.
Oh yeah.
That likely is have something to do with the company internal policy as well.
Yeah.
Like because of what there could be like enforce a sense that you shouldn't rely so much on the AI part, because
Yeah.
otherwise I will feel like those people will be the much go to the extent of really
You would
Yes.
generally, because we're all technologists in the room. But remember, this was done with one of the clients that we have that's in the family office and foundation space. So that IT team isn't necessarily a group of technologists that are passionate about moving forward with technology. They're also instead very concerned about job security. So I wasn't surprised to see this because I know them. but yeah, so I think like again, you have to like think of the context. Context is important. Like what type of client was this? But again, like I'm so glad you guys were so engaged with this, but this is around signals, not surveillance. So you kind of get what I'm saying about like this is not surface level. We dug deep to find this out. So now what do you do? So you get the signals. You analyze it to get insights, which is what I just showed you, right? And then what you do is build enablement plans. So that's what we've done with clients as well. So you get those and you build enablement plans and you create this loop. So you build enablement plans based on where people are. So we have that very interesting spread with that one team. We're like, great, what are we going to do there? Okay, well, we're going to look at the power users. We're going to try to convert them into peer evangelists that can help the other people that are clearly much further behind. We're going to have role specific training. We're going to do all these things that we can create enablement plans that are specific and unique to each of those teams, because you saw they're not all the same. So organizations don't look at data this way when they're rolling out technology, and definitely not AI. And so therefore they don't know why everything's falling apart. And that's exactly why, right? Because you can't expect everybody to adopt things at the same level, at the same pace, and they need different support.
You mean it's not one size fits all?
No, it isn't. Sorry. But so this is the feedback loop that works. We use it every day. So what are some of the things that get in the way? Not
Go ahead, answer one question.
Yeah.
Like when this client engage you, the service that you do for them,
Yeah.
what's their initial goal? I mean, do this survey, what's their goal? They're trying to understand, and after get this insight, you kind of work toward their goal. Is that how it?
Yeah. So they're to be frank, their existing goal and why they engage with us was from the CIO, who is who we were engaged by. That's like our ICP in terms of clients that we work with, and it's to basically demonstrate ROI against the technology that they enabled, right? So CIOs make decisions all the time. They invest in technology. So what's the thing that they're put on the docket for is what's the return on investment that we just put out there? So that's why we were engaged. It was like, what is the return on the investment? Is there true adoption? Is it actually making people's lives easier, better? Like what's happening here? Or is this just tech for tech's sake? So we are supporting the CIO in terms of looking at that and like giving them the insight of this is what's happening with the adoption for this technology.
The other thing too, sorry, if you don't,
No, it's okay.
one thing that might help to give context is that one of the really big buzz sort of areas right now in healthcare tech and AI is operational efficiency. And so when I look at healthcare, it's a pretty big thing, right? You've got HLS, which is all your research and all that, and health life science, and then you've got your hospitals and your hospital systems. And then even in the hospital system, you can divide the hospital system. I like to always divide it into at least at a minimum clinical and operations, right? And so I think of in the hospital as clinical is anything that touches a patient, right? So when we're talking about using GAN networks to, try to figure out whether somebody might have cancer based on a graph or something like that, that's a different conversation that what we're having today. Today, these use cases, I'm sure everybody has sort of picked up on this, but I just, for those that might be helpful, this is really more in that context of operational efficiency, right? Like when are the folks on the operational side, how is this going to, what's their proficiency, right?
Yeah.
So like if we're going to spend $100,000 on Copilot for the operations side of the hospital, what is the ROI, right?
Yeah.
You test that after. I mean, I could see, I would probably want to know that. Probably.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I would or would not.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, worries. And I think that what gets in the way is pretty clear. I think the one thing I'd want to call out here, because I know we're running to the end here. The thing that is interesting, I don't think people understand, is we get really excited about power users. Like we love them. They're like our biggest fans, right? As technologists. The challenge is when you rely too much on them, these are the people that want to master things, right? They're looking to master whatever you put in front of them. Most people are not. The majority is not trying to master the technology that you're trying to implement, AI or otherwise. They're just not. They're just trying to do their jobs. So they are the people that you need to spend the most time with and not rely on the feedback and the focus around your power users. And that's a mistake I've seen made a lot. In fact, with this particular client, I even hear it all the time. Well, we have this power. I'm like, I understand. But like, you see all these other people. Like, so that's why the signals are really, really important, because it shows where everybody's at. And when you see that dissension, you're like, well, then there's power users there, right? And they're using it in isolation and not helping the other team come along for the ride. So I think that's I would say, tale of caution. So what do I see some smart teams doing differently? And we're helping some of this as well, is again, tailoring adoption to the role-based needs, right? Because again, you saw the signals, not everyone learns the same and at the same speed. So tailoring the adoption there, driving engagement with peer champions. So find your power users, turn them into champions, not people that are mastering the technology over in the corner in their cubicle and not sharing it with anyone, right? You need them to help. And then identify and address the barriers with light touch diagnostics. For us, that's like our proficiency pulse that I shared with you that we do. But basically it's like, think about strategies today. And I encourage all of you guys to do this. Think about strategies today that you could adopt immediately when you go back to your everyday work life. And maybe it's one of these, maybe it's all of these, but like, these are just like, what I see has worked with clients, again, in AI and all technology, honestly, is like taking that approach. Yeah.
For the first bullet on the previous slide.
Yeah.
What are some examples of what you mean by that from a tactical standpoint?
So
To adopt, to tailor.
Yeah. So for any technology or AI or whatever.
For AI.
Yeah. So for us, it was based on use case. So like if I looked at sector effectiveness versus like the marketing team at that client, like what are they going to use AI for? Right. And so it's not about, again, we're not talking about building. We're talking about how are they leveraging tools? And usually for them, it's the AI that's embedded in all the operational tools they already have, because it's just showing up everywhere. Right. And they're like, how do I use this? Do I use it? Do I click on that shiny star thing? Like, what do I do? So and then it's understanding their use cases. So when I say role-based, I'm saying, what is the use case that particular team or even individual, right? Because their role on a team may be different. What are they doing? And how can AI help them and like train them for those things? Because if you can prove to them that that AI or any technology can help them do their job the way they're already doing it, and it creates that efficiency, makes them go faster, saves time, which by the way, helps the CIO demonstrate ROI, because those people are going to be like, my God, that used to take me 7-8 hours to do, and I just did it in 10 minutes. So those are the stories you're trying to get to emerge. And the only way you get there is if you know that those individuals and those teams, what they do, and you can align that technology with what their use cases are. That's where everything just sort of like lights up for them.
When they see the results, they kind of get the motivation.
Not just the motivation, but they evangelize, right? Like they start to level up. And the reason why that's important is because of the reason why we're brought into these clients. It's like, ultimately, what's the outcome they're looking for? Is the CIO needs to demonstrate that he's made the right investment in technology, right? And so that he can get his budget approved for the next year.
But they also have to care enough to use it also, so their own internal motivation.
Yeah, true. That's, of course.
See the time put back in the day, maybe.
I mean, if you save me 8 hours, I'm probably going to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, the business doesn't care about my efficiency for my own sake. It
Right.
cares about my efficiency for how much I can contribute to the business.
Sure.
You know, That's really the business motivation, which is what you end up focusing on, because you're
Yeah.
a business supporting another business. Your business is not to make me as a worker happy.
Yeah.
Although as that may be a useful tool, but
Sure.
not in order to make me happy, maybe make me more proficient. It's so that if I'm happier, I will then have a better ROI that I contribute to.
Yeah, I mean, it's all connected, right? For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. But I mean, like building those role-based templates and adoption programs, and like how do we drive engagement based on that feedback loop? That is helping individuals. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it's definitely yes, and it's both of those things.
How much do managers really play a role in this? So if I'm a good
Yeah.
manager and I have my AI tools,
I'd love to
I
hear what
can-
your definition of a good manager is. We can talk about that after.
I can actually show or prove to my group that I am using it. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid of it. This is how I'm using it.
Yeah.
Does that play a role?
It's a huge role. So one of the things, so obviously we want it to be ubiquitous across the team, regardless of role. But if like you saw the Section AI results, right? Managers were discouraging it. And so we try to get to like a leadership alignment. So we also, like, part of our framework that's AIM, the A is align. It's getting alignment, because if they're not on board and aligned, and also we're in the weeds and doing all of these things too, they won't be able to help either, and they're definitely not going to promote it. So we even have that's one of the things that Paul and I have been talking about, like how do you focus that sort of like evangelism and training and education to the leaders, like at the executive level. And we'll get, actually, again, you guys are really great with the
Culture, but
segues.
that kind of culture change and usage, it always comes from the top.
Of course.
It never trickles up.
Well,
It
here's a
never
perfect
trickles up.
example of that in healthcare, just real quick, and it answers the question as well, is the NIH over in the UK. So they obviously, whenever I talk to my friends in the UK or Asia, they're always like, hey, what's going on with healthcare in the US? Blah, blah, blah. You may think you know the whole story. And I have to explain to them, it's like we have 50 states in one, 50 nation states in one. And then I explain how we have all these different data pools and data sets, right? Well, when you go over to the UK, you just don't have that, because you have I don't want to say a centralized data set, because they've got some problems too, but compared to ours, it's it would be considered more of a centralized data set. So interestingly enough, Oracle won the United States government contract, and Oracle's doing some really cool stuff in healthcare right now too, actually. And what happened was, I think, this is just Paul's personal opinion, by the way, right now. This is not Microsoft messaging, but I don't think Microsoft liked that. And so they went after NIH across the pond. And I'll tell you what, they deployed that so quickly. They deployed NIH. To me, it felt like 6 months. Don't hold me to that. But so they deployed it, and then they announced last week they had deployed across all of the hospital systems, hospital system-wide that month. And I think that the math they had done was, don't quote me on this, but was about 7 or 8 hours a week per employee. So they were able to very quickly do the math, and then just show that, okay, this was what our return on investment. So the good news is that, remember when we said, this cool technology is happening, you should jump on the bandwagon? Well, we actually started saying that 2 years ago, and we're already 2 years into it. A lot of people in this room know that, because they've been coming to these meetings for the last 2 years, and we've been talking about this. But what that means is that, for better or worse, you might be a little late to the game, but people have already proven some things. Meaning, like, now we know, now we have some data. Now you actually can go up on the Microsoft site and you can say, oh, this company rolled out Copilot based on such and such. They save 6 hours per day per employee, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the very long answer, sorry,
No.
to that, ROI, price per employee.
Yeah.
And bringing it back to healthcare at the same time.
Yeah, totally. So again, at the leader level, this is very relevant to what you're saying. They're receiving mandates across healthcare and all sorts of industries right now. I don't think there's been an executive leader that I haven't talked to in the last 6 months that haven't said they have a mandate at the C level to use AI. They have to demonstrate some sort of usage, integration in it, and they have no idea.
Repeat that, wait, because this is fascinating. Goes to your question, but it's coming from where? Sorry,
from the C level.
The C level. What I'm finding, what my real quick point is, Jesus, because you said CTO earlier, Chief Technology Officer. I haven't. I'd love to hear what you say about this.
I think they get it from the CEO. I don't
Okay.
even think
I
they're
have a different experience, but yeah.
Yeah.
But because I find all the other leadership. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, no,
Go
it's
ahead.
fine.
I was
No,
trying
no,
to make a quick point.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's always the CTO that's
Yeah.
saying we have to use AI. I've had experience where it is the CIO or CTO, but
I'm seeing the board. That's what I was the point
Oh,
I was
really?
trying to make. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm seeing it coming from the board of directors or the C-suite, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah,
But I have yet to see a technology department get behind it, like a
Yeah.
CISO or a CTO. They always say to me, I'm only talking about healthcare. And why would they? Because it's their bottom line. Like they would be the
Yeah,
last person. I would if I would do the same thing.
it's a lot of
And,
work.
and what they're saying is business come to us, but really what they're saying is, well, we know the vendors are going to do it. Like we know Epic's going to put Scribe in Epic, right? We know, Drag and Microsoft's going to put it there. And so they're waiting for the bigger vendors to
Yeah.
do it. That way they reduce the risk. Because the CIO, the CTO, CAIO, the Chief AI, they're the ones that are going to be at risk, right?
Yeah.
So my personal experience so far is they're waiting for it to come down from the board, but now it is.
Yeah.
Now it's coming down from the board
Yeah.
and from the C-suite, and now
Yeah.
the Chief Technology Officer has to have
Yeah.
an initiative.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my-
Yeah, and I have experience recently with a nonprofit that we just started working with, and
Yeah.
it was coming from
Now they're being
the
told.
board. You're absolutely right. And then the CEO was saying to like the chief administration officer, why aren't we doing this?
Yeah.
And now it's coming bottom up from different departments. Hey, so we talked to so-and-so who works at this other nonprofit and they're using this really cool thing. How come we're not doing that?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now it's like, it's a bit messy.
Start to snowball. It'll start, well, that's great though too,
Yeah.
because it'll
Yeah.
start to snowball.
Yeah.
From
So you think the vendors are mature enough to support that, or you think it's getting a little ahead of the vendor maturity?
it's the larger vendors. So for me personally, when I'm speaking to leadership in hospital systems, when they say vendors, they're speaking about their line of business systems. So it's the PeopleSoft, the ERP system,
Yeah.
the Epic system for
Right,
the
okay.
EHR, the Cerner, whatever it is
Right,
that you're
right,
using. So it's those core systems, like
Yeah.
your core line of business ones. Those ones you always treat a little separate, like mission critical,
Sure,
right? Like
yeah.
those are like, no, of course, and it makes sense. If you're the CIO, you're like, no, let's just wait and see what Epic does. And
I'm not
because
I'm not designing my own
know,
car.
You flip on the
gonna
news and
buy it from
everybody's
the-
telling you it's going to kill everybody in the world, like one news channel, and then you go to the next, then your boss wants to report. You see where I'm
Yeah.
going with this?
Yeah.
Says,
Right.
I get it. I get why they might have been a little afraid and why they would, but anyway, we digress.
Yeah. And I know we're way over, so I can wrap up. I think that the point here just being like we need to reframe the mandate so that we stop talking about like, are we just using it again? Like that's surface level, right? Like, are we actually getting better because of it? Is it actually improving the business? Can we measure the fact that it's having operational efficiency results? It's improving ROI. Like these are the things that we need to start talking about because the goal isn't just using AI. or any technology, honestly. It's about achieving better decisions, smoother workflows, getting to better outcomes faster, like making more money. Like these are the things that we should be caring about. So then, yeah, I'm just saying like, it's about people. Like we're empowering the people. We need to talk to the people. If you want to get all the information I shared today, if you just want to connect with me, here's some ways to do that. Yeah.
I want to make sure other people get a chance to chime in, whatever. But you mentioned a couple of times, and it caught my ear, measuring return on investment. And you didn't really talk about any of the approaches to doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like critical because you have to measure before you implement your plan, or at least very early.
Yeah.
And then so you have a reference to say, oh, 6 months later or 1 year later, whatever, we've deployed this. Now we can actually get a differential, right?
Yep.
But still, how do you measure the efficiencies that you're expecting to shift?
So, I mean, that's the framework we use to measure the proficiency index. It's the whole way I was able to map that, right? So like, I think,
But
I don't
in
know
terms
if
of like an ROI efficiency, like something that's
Yeah,
going to actually translate into dollars, all the things that you talked about were fascinating and relevant, but it's hard for me to figure out like, how does that actually map into something close to dollars or whatever your currency is?
I think it depends on the organization, right? Like, what are the outcomes they're trying to reach? I can't give you a one done answer.
I'm sorry?
So I'm with you.
No, I understand it wouldn't be a one and done. I mean, none of this stuff is one and done. It's
Sure.
not one side. But like, what are the mechanisms that you found useful to, like across the board or even just in healthcare, whatever domain you think is useful?
Yeah.
how do you actually measure the things that you feel this technology is going to impact, so that you can then get a measure later and say, oh yeah, it actually made a difference, or not so much, or whatever, or it made a difference in these particular sectors, but not over there. Oh, but this one really,
Yeah. So, well, two things I would say to that. One,
Sure.
It's definitely obviously individual depending upon the outcomes that the organization is trying to reach.
Yes.
Two, for this particular, using that example, for that particular one, it definitely is operational efficiency. So it's how much time is being saved by each of those teams. So we have to understand the baseline, we talked to them, we got to get the baseline, to your point,
Right.
which also is factored into the cost of each of those resources. So literally like the head count and the amount of time that the organization is funding those people doing the work that they're doing. And then so right now it wouldn't, like, we have baseline. They just started adopting. We can see that the adoption is kind of all over the map. Now we're implementing basically enablement plans to get them to the next level, try to move them up in proficiency. And then we'll baseline again. And we're able to say, did they actually save time? And we'll do it at the team level, not necessarily at the individual level, because I don't like to call out individual people, but we'll do it at the team level. And that's what the organization's asked us to do. And then we can compare and contrast like the cost and the cost. So are you getting more productivity and efficiency based on that? But I don't know if that answers your question, but for that example, that's exactly what we'll do.
What's your cycle time typically?
What's our cycle time?
Well, as
I mean,
Between, as a consultant, your company,
so
between
in-
your first evaluation versus your follow-up evaluations later.
So we do quarterly pulses.
According-
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and again, like it depends on the engagements. Our engagements with our clients are usually 6 to 9 months, but some extend us and want to keep us on because they want to keep, either they don't see like we need to do more because some teams are lagging, or they just want to keep us on because they really like us. We try not to have like yearly engagements with customers, but
So
Yeah.
do you,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, regarding enablement.
Yeah.
Like, the way, how do you implement those, or how do you propose those enablement? Like, do you also using AI in certain way to help you kind of, make proposal for the organization as well? Or-
So we're using the results that I showed you to figure out, well, which team, like where do they need to focus and how? And then we build basically training plans for them, right? And then we'll even execute the training, or we partner with other people that are experts in that area to help execute and deliver the training.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then we provide the exercises and go through that. And then we, again, do a pulse in 3 months to see, okay, did the enablement, is it moving things forward? Are people embedding things in their average everyday workflow?
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Any change, whether it's technology or process or new furniture or whatever, we'll have a change management plan. So
Yeah.
you talked about AI specific change management. Did you see any unique patterns for AI specific change management versus a regular technology change management? Like a new coffee machine versus
Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah.
Traditionally, we have done change management over the years.
Yeah.
But now AI is a new disruptive. Did you see anything unique to AI for change management?
I think the thing that Paul mentioned earlier, which was around like safety and policy, are the things that really like emerge as something that's very unique compared to like other technology solutions that are implemented with an organization. Like, but in general, no, I think like it's just technology, like in terms of human resistance and how to like spearhead champions and
With
yeah.
this growth, we have folks who are resistant,
Yeah.
fixed mindset versus we have
Mhm.
amazingly talented folks who run away with it. I think it's always a balance.
It's no different.
That's why I
Yeah.
asked, is there any AI unique, or is it like any other change? Some people are open to certain changes.
I think there's more resistance right now, more broadly that I've seen, like in my personal experience, than with
Did you
other
see any
technology.
pattern among the resistance group?
I think the IT and tech folks tend to be more resistant. I don't we see that, but which is again, like at first glance, sort of like surprising and shocking.
tighten all of the leaks or potential leaks and have
Yeah.
processes in place first.
Totally. I mean, it's exactly what Paul was saying too, right? It's like the risk and ownership that they have to take on when that decision is
Yeah.
made.
It could be a little bit of CY.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think I just want to try
Human
to bring
nature.
things home a little bit, and as we're winding down here, first of all, thank everybody for coming out. Thank everybody online. I want to do a reminder of Boston AI next week, and excuse me, I missed something here.
Oh.
Remember Boston AI next week,
Plug
and
back in.
also if you don't mind, if we could give just a special warm welcome of applause for Melissa. Really fascinating conversation about adoption, and I think in closing, I'd like to answer the question that you had about, essentially the question was, what's different with AI and adoption this time? What are we learning? Was that, if I remember correctly?
Any different from
Is it any
other
different than
change?
any other technology?
yeah.
And I hate to sound cliche because so many people have been saying this, but if I had to answer that question, for me, I would say the thing that surprises me is how fast it's moving and the pace isn't given up. Like for the people that started coming to this meeting 2 years ago, remember 2 years ago we started looking at semantic kernel agents, right? Building agents, etc. So for those people that are in this room and you know who you are, the stuff that we're seeing right now, and it's not even, it's not even stuff we'll see or hear yet, but I'm just telling you, it is unbelievable, the pace of change. Like that to me sticks out. And again, I know I sound cliche. I know there are thousands of people just like me. I guess I'm an OG now. I've been doing this 30 years and they say the same thing, but I really mean that when I say it. And trust me, I don't want to say it. I hate sounding like everybody else. So I question myself about this.
So it is, right? If I think back over the last, say my adult life, right?
Sure.
I think there are two other changes, right? That has in technology that has also been like pretty rapid in scale, right?
Sure.
That what you can say, like the internet as a domestic entity, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The
first 2 years though, but keep going.
No, but I'm sort of like thinking about, like, I started in the university with like email, right? In the early 90s, right? But then you got Mozilla, and then so like there was an explosion,
100%.
like and then up to the internet group,
Yeah.
right? That was like in a relatively small number of years, right? Was a fundamental shift, right? From the dial-up modem to like now everything being online, right?
Yeah.
And then the smartphone, right, which came out in 2008, right? And in a few years, right? But as I said, we all got attached to our smartphone, right? Regardless of whether it was an app.
I get it. It was just boring to me. The internet was HTML. I'm sorry. It just wasn't. It didn't evolve like that. The first 2 years of the internet, they didn't even get email hooked up. I mean, if we would have
I was in the university environment, right?
Well, the first 20 years of AI were nothing anyway. I mean, you got people playing very good tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was like a really long initial tail of things sort of not yet, and then all of a sudden there's this hockey stick, whoop, it takes off, right? And I think that's probably true of